This is Sports Jam. I'm Doug Doyle, and my special guests today are not only connected with New York baseball, but they've also become a part of its musical fabric with an upcoming performance at Carnegie Hall on January 13th. New York Yankees great, four-time World Series champion, Latin Grammy-nominated jazz guitarist, Bernie Williams. Bernie, it's great to have you back on Sports Jam.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And thank you so much for having me on the show.
Indeed, my pleasure. You came to the WBGO studios in 2009, I remember, to be a guest on Sports Jam and to join soon-to-be NEA Jazz Master Rhonda Hamilton for an hour on WBGO, and you played live. I also recently spoke to you about you and your partnership with Gil Paris and your wonderful work together on stage. It's always an honor to talk to you. And also joining us today is violinist Katia Lindor, who is part of this special concert at Carnegie Hall. Katia is not only a wonderful musician in her own right, but she's also married to New York Mets superstar Francisco Lindor. Katia, so glad you could join us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Bernie, what will it mean for you to play at Carnegie Hall with award-winning tenor Jonathan Tettleman for an evening uniting opera, jazz, and sports?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. I feel so excited about the fact that we all have this opportunity. It's a very unique opportunity when I can mix the worlds of sports and music uh, and our Latin heritage, all in one place. And if you could say, I mean, one of the best venues, for music in the world, you talk about Carnegie Hall. When I was a, young student in Puerto Rico at La Escuela Libre de Música in San Juan, I would never envision in a million years that I would have this opportunity to play baseball in this great city, but also to have the bonus of performing in one of the best venues in the world for classical music and all kinds of music. So this is certainly a dream come true.
For you, Katia, both the heritage for you, Bernie, and Francisco, the Puerto Rican heritage is strong. And so I'm sure this is a very special event for you.
It is indeed. I'm honored to share the stage with the incredible musicians, that are going to be participating. And similar to Bernie, growing up in Puerto Rico, you always dream of one day reaching, the big stages that are, a lot of them in New York, and Carnegie being one of those that you never really think that that's going to happen in your lifetime, but I had the amazing opportunity to be a part of something even bigger than music and sports, right? This is sort of like about humanity and bridging the gap between two worlds that maybe normally wouldn't mesh. And I think that's something really cool and beautiful. And the fact that a fellow Puerto Rican has, so many incredible accolades also is pretty special. So I admire Bernie so much.
Yeah, and when we talk about Puerto Rican heritage, we have to talk about Roberto Clemente, whose jersey is behind me. Katia, you performed the national anthem on September 16th at Citi Field this past season as the Mets crushed the Padres. What was that experience like for you as your husband and three children looked on?
That was definitely special, a very unique evening. It was celebrating Hispanic Heritage Night, which was really special. And then to see my husband and my children, on the field cheering me on, it was something really cool. And I got a small glimpse of what my husband does every day. And I admire him even more for that because, woof, that's going on, like the big stage, as they say, every single night with thousands of fans looking upon you. That's no easy thing to do, but then to perform at such an elite level as he does, and all of these athletes, it's pretty incredible. So the tables flipped there for us, a minute and a half what the anthem lasted, and it was really cool. It was definitely special.
Francisco was wearing Roberto Clemente's number 21 jersey for the Mets that day. He led the Mets led off in the first inning with a single and then smacked a home run too. It was quite a day for the Lindor family, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
But you know what that means, right? That means that you have to you have to play the anthem more frequently because, this is an unwritten rule. When you play the anthem and your team wins, you start building a record. So you started with a good winning record. So you got to keep that going.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Bernie knows all about playing the national anthem before sporting events and does an amazing job with it as well. What is your thoughts about Roberto Clemente before we move on, Bernie?
I mean, he is, I'm sure, I don't want to speak for Katia, but I mean, obviously, our heritage and our legacy in baseball has been sort of passed, along this, this line of great players. And in my generation, we grew up uh, idolizing Roberto. And not necessarily for what he did on the field, because he was obviously a Hall of Fame baseball player, but I think his legacy becomes even more important because of what he did off the field. He was an advocate for minorities in baseball and in society. He was a loud voice for the Latino cause. In baseball, and everywhere he went, he was always very proud of representing his country with the dignity and all that that entailed. And he was a hero. I mean, I was maybe about 4 years old when he tragically passed away in that in his effort to bring aid to a country that was stricken by a hurricane, an earthquake in Nicaragua, and he tragically passed away. So if there's a way of canonizing and make the Mount Rushmore of saints in Puerto Rico, Roberto Clemente is certainly one of them, and our inspiration, for doing what we do. I mean, we took a page of his book. Every time we play on the field and every time we come out of, doing things like this, we're certainly representing, what he symbolized for all of us. And it's just a great example to follow.
The new doc, Clemente, features Francisco Lindor talking about Roberto's play. It's a wonderful documentary, and I advise everybody to watch it. I got a chance to see Roberto play in the 1971 World Series as the Pirates went on to win. It was Game 5 that I saw, but the Pirates went on to beat the Baltimore Orioles in winning the World Series. Bernie Williams has won 4 World Series. How do you compare winning World Series to playing at Carnegie Hall?
Well, I mean, it is basically the same way. You kind of have to approach it. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. So I think, apply the same kind of laws into anything that you do in life. There's no shortcuts. There's a lot of hard work involved. And what people tend to see is the result of all those countless hours of, just going through scales and arpeggios and going through the batting cages and hitting soft toss and doing all of that. Is great that we have an opportunity to show people, all the results of all that hard work. But I think it comes from the same source. I mean, you have an upbringing, you have your parents supporting, you have a supporting cast of people that, it trying to make life easy for you so you can do the things that you're supposed to be doing. And I'm pretty sure Katia knows this. I mean, she is not only Francisco, doing his thing on the field. He relies on a supporting cast of people that he trusts completely to make sure that he is in a good position to do what he does. And that's why Kathy is so important in his life and the family, trying to keep the family together. So my, kudos to Katia. And, after all of that, being able to play the violin at the level that she plays it, I mean, she's another superstar in that family.
You minored in
Thank
music.
you.
Yeah, you minored in music in college, Katia. When was the first time you picked up the violin and somebody said, "Hey, you're pretty good"?
Um, I mean, I started when I was 4, so there was nothing virtuoso about me at the time, like I learned little by little, step by step. And it was, obviously as Bernie says, that system, that support system that was pushing me and kind of shaping me was my mom. She forced me to practice. I say forced because as a little 4-year-old, I'm like, oh, this again, but she made sure I practice every day, and I learned with the Suzuki method, right? So the philosophy was, if you ate today, then you practice today, right? And so my mom applied that. And when I resisted the practicing, she said, well, I guess you're not having your meal today. Obviously, I think she would never have not fed me, but I was very food motivated. So I was like, nope, I'm practicing because I'm not missing my meal of the day. I mean, obviously, multiple meals, but it turned from that into something I actually obviously enjoyed, and then I became disciplined in the way that I could sit myself down and practice without my mom telling me to, right? But it's quite a persistence from the parents, because when you're that small, it's really the parents that are like driving you and shaping you and kind of making sure that you learn that discipline and that drive so that you can carry that on later in life. And so, yeah, that's how it started. And then, I kind of just carried on with violin. That was my life kind of revolved around my violin and my music.
Talk about patience for parents. Your mom has to have great patience because the
Yes.
violin played poorly at the age of 4 can be one of the most obnoxious sounds we can hear, right?
For sure. Yes. I'm trying to get my 5-year-old now into it. And, I see, I appreciate even more the patience my mom had with me. And it was my sister and me. My sister's 4 years older than I am. So we both played the violin growing up. And I have a second daughter. So I'm just thinking of doing it with both of them. And it's hard work. It's hard work. My mom homeschooled us too. So, kudos to her.
Yeah, everybody that sees the Lindor children, the 2 daughters and son, they are the most beautiful kids you could ever have. They adorable is how you can refer to them. Bernie, how did this night come about? Jonathan Tettleman, the award-winning tenor, will be performing with you. How did this all work out?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I think it's a lot of it had to do with the presence and the vision of one Adam Unger. He was a former bad boy for the visiting team, when Yankee Stadium. He actually became a minor league player himself, and he started, I think, from a very young age, being involved in music as well as singing. Uh, I believe that he became a baritone and he is now practicing sports law in the city of New York. And he always had this vision to reunite his world of music with the world of sports. He had this great idea to kind of pair me with somebody from the classical world because he was more involved in the classical music, in arias and operatic music. And we've been talking about this for the last 10 years. And he just happens to be a great friend of John Tellman and this world-renowned tenor that is singing all over the world. So they kind of combine, ideas, and they came up with this great opportunity for me, for Katia, and for everybody involved, where we can have, the sum of the parts being bigger than the individuals. Having a night of jazz, pop, operatic music, sports, and the presence of representing the Latino community and the people of New York. We are a melting pot here, so I think it's just a great opportunity, great vision, and I'm just so glad to be part of the event.
Yeah, it will be spectacular, and there are quite a few wonderful musicians that will be joining both of you on stage. I know that you appreciate Katia, wonderful singers, because Andrea Bocelli was his one of his tunes was your wedding song.
Yes. I grew up listening to Andrea Bocelli. My grandfather, who may he rest in peace, he was a huge fan of Bocelli's. And so back in the day when it was, CD players, we had his CDs. And so it was something that I always listened to, his music. But for our wedding, I obviously introduced his music to Francisco, and so we danced to his version of Can't Help Falling in Love. I just love Bocelli's voice, and it was, I thought, the perfect tune to do our first dance to. So, yep.
Yeah, that's I'm sure that was a special night for you. Katia, Francisco, was a star with the Cleveland Indians and then came to the Mets with all that pressure, contract and whatnot, raising three children. It had to be a transition for you. How's it been going?
He when we met, he was with Cleveland, and so I think the fact that we met and pretty quickly then became parents, and I hadn't fully lived the baseball experience. I mean, I knew about baseball, but I did realize it was 162 games in a season. That was I learned that by experience. I lived it for the first time as a first time parent, and that was hard. And then we were in a new city. We were in New York for the first time that year, and so it was a lot of adjustments for me, for us, and so it's we've come a long way, I would say, for sure. Obviously, adding on two more kids, that's quite a feat for me. Who I'm home with them most of the day. But we've had to really grow, as a couple, and as he has a professional, and learning how to balance his life as a professional baseball player and then as a dad and husband. I think his discipline and his drive has always been just everything all about baseball, and then kind of had to divide his time, a little more wisely between that and then his family life, because he's a present dad and he wants to be, but baseball is always, going to be like that, one of those main focuses that he needs to maintain that focus. And he does a great job. It was a learning curve, and we had to learn together and kind of navigate that. But yeah, New York is such an amazing city. We're so happy here. We love New York. I think this was the place for him for sure. And then I didn't think so for me, because I was always scared of a big city. I'm from the coast. I'm a coastal girl from the beaches in Puerto Rico. I never lived in a big city, but I just thought it was something else. And then I got here and I was like, oh no, this is really awesome. I like it.
So, Bernie, we have Yankees and Mets fans interested in this wonderful event. And as you think about, you and I have talked about your career many times, but I've always brought up you are one of the most clutch performers this game has ever seen. When we talk about World Series greats, you are, can be put up there with all the Yankee greats of all time, because you always came through in the big games. I guess when you're at Carnegie Hall, the same amount of pressure, you kind of talked about it. We expect you to be the clutch performer you always are.
Well, I am planning on performing under pressure. I think it's obviously what have sort of based my career on, playing baseball and playing music. I have some of my earliest childhood experiences performing, not necessarily in baseball, but it was in music. Performing for a group of teachers at my performing arts high school. Making my parents so proud when me and my brother, which by the way is a cellist, uh, perform in front of our relatives, when they would come to the house to visit. So it is something that has not eluded me through my whole life. So I have an opportunity just to continue in a higher level to do this. And it's all about preparation. It's the whole saying, it's true. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. How do you get to Yankee Stadium? How do you get to Citi Field? So it is something that we kind of thrived on, but it comes with a price. It comes with the sacrifice of maybe a little bit of social life, maybe a little bit of family life that has to be sacrificed. Some of those things that's why I keep saying that Katia is such a superstar in this, in this equation, because she is the glue that keeps that family together. When you have three kids, and you have to kind of like make sure that everything is in place. So Francisco is in a good place mentally to do what he has to do. I mean, the same thing happened with my family, with my, my family that I had at the time with three kids also. It was very similar. And, a lot of the things that Francisco is going through right now, I had to go through, back in the 90s. And it was a process. So going to Carnegie Hall and perform is something that I've always dreamed of. I perform in different places in the city, like, but mostly jazz and rock and blues. The Blue Note, Richfield Playhouse, Terry Talk Music Hall, all this stuff that I've been able to do. Carnegie Hall is certainly right at the top of my list. We're going to have a lot of great people. Haley Swindell, the granddaughter of Mr. George Steinbrenner, is going to perform an encore also of New York, New York, I believe. We're also going to have, obviously Katia playing with not only, not other than the Metropolitan Opera string section, which is, I mean, I'm pretty sure that she feels very excited about that. We also going to have Jose Reyes and Stephen Marbury being part of this great night of celebration with sports and music. So I think this is going to be a great night and something that I'm very much looking forward to.
I will never forget when you first came in to do Sports Jam back in 2009 that you talked about writing a song for your daughter. And I said, is this the same Bernie Williams who was this great baseball player? You are so deep and have such love for family. You just opened up like a book, Bernie. And it was like, Bernie didn't talk a lot when he was with the Yankees. He just performed on the field. How's songwriting been going for you lately?
Yeah, you just got to find the right subject for me to talk about. Then I'll be a chatterbox. But yeah, I mean, I just to kind of relay the same, idea that Katya's mom had for her, just practice. My mom was an educator that believed in a sound mind and a sound body. She did her best to raise us the right way. She always thought that education was the reason and the vehicle for us to go, get ahead in the world. And she was very adamant about our education. And with that education came the exposure to arts, music, and sports. It was just now that I'm looking in hindsight, of my life as a kid, I am so glad that my parents made me, study music and made me have music as this incredible part of my life that I can use for everything. In that sense, writing songs is a way of me expressing some feelings and emotions that might be a little bit harder to express, with my thoughts, with my words. So that song that I wrote for Beatriz was Lullaby for Beatrice, and she was, I think I wrote it when she was about 8 or 9 years old. And my thought process was, she is like in the crib, being a little baby, and I was thinking about, how would she grow up as an adult? What was she going to become? Is she going to be a scientist? Is she going to be a lawyer? Is she going to be a painter? So it was basically with that sense of awe and gratitude that I, put, those notes in the paper to write a song for her. And every time she listens to it, she kind of cries. The older she gets, she's now in 30, and the older she gets to appreciate even more. And I am so grateful that I have this ability, God-given ability that took a lot of work to sort of develop, but is one of the great vehicles that I have to express my emotions in a way that words can't express.
Katya, look what you have to look forward to. Um, you have three very young kids. Do you play the violin for them, and have you written a song for them?
Yes, to the first question, I played for them ever since they were, in my womb. I have yet to write songs for them. I'm not necessarily a songwriter, but I feel like that could come. It just takes a strike of inspiration, right? And maybe some time to sit down and write, because I feel like I haven't been able to finish a book cover to cover since becoming a mom. There's like very limited time, and when I can carve out an hour, to practice, I'll do that. And then It takes a support system. I have my sister helping me with the kids. And it's like if she wasn't around, I wouldn't be able to do some of these things that I do. I have a podcast, and I rely on people to kind of take over with the kids when I'm, carving out those few hours to do those things. And in the off season, Francisco will take over with the kids a lot more. But in season, it's a lot harder.
Before we let you go, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the podcast?
Sure. Yeah, it's called the Unapparent Podcast. It's a play on words, unapparent with one P. It's a parenting podcast, right? But I tie in a lot of relevant social, economic, social, political, social justice topics through a parenting lens. So I advocate for, paid maternity leave, maternal health, women's health, mental health, just a lot of topics that I think are important, and that as parents they become even more important. Like childcare is so expensive, and I speak from a very privileged position that I don't have to worry about a lot of these things, but I care about people, and I know not everyone has the privileges I have, and so it's one of my passions and duties, I feel, my responsibilities to speak for minorities and people who kind of struggle. I'm a mom, and it's hard, and I have so much privilege and help. I just I can't imagine for people who are struggling with all the same things, plus a lot more barriers that they shouldn't be. And so I talk about a lot of these things on my podcast.
Yeah, well said. And you're always there supporting your husband at the field. We see the family, and it's
Yes.
a very beautiful experience. So first of all, thank you so much, Katia, for joining us today, and we look forward to your performance on the 13th of January at Carnegie Hall.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bernie, before we let you go, as you got the word that this was going to happen outside of family, who was the first person you had to tell? I'm playing Carnegie Hall.
Probably had to be a lot of my musical friends. I made a barrage of texts, just announcing the news. I have some great friends in Puerto Rico that sort of carry me in my musical journey there, and sports as well. And I have a really good friend in Westchester County, Gil Paris. We have been, kind of my mentor all these years. We have been playing together for the last 20 years in various events, jam sessions, recordings, concerts, and he definitely was very excited about that, and I'm pretty sure he's going to go there as well. But obviously, I have a lot of people to thank for this opportunity because you don't do these things in a vacuum. Like Katia says, we have a support system of people that help you. They mentor you along the way, and they facilitate things for you. So I am so very blessed to have that opportunity to thank all these people, and I'm pretty sure I will be able to thank them out there at Carnegie Hall. And my success is their success. They can certainly relate to that as well. So I'm very excited about the possibilities, and hopefully this will be not a culmination, but the beginning of good things to come. And certainly hope that that is the case.
Well, with the spirit of Roberto Clemente behind us and in both of your lives, I wish you both a great success on January 13th at Carnegie Hall. Katia, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bernie, always great to talk to you. You amaze me because to be able to excel in two different, you know, courses of your life is something that is rarely done, and you have been able to do it and do it so well. You're one of my favorites of all time, and it's an honor to talk to you again. Thanks for joining us on Sports Jam.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. And feel gratitude does not explain how I feel. It is great to be able to do this, and always a pleasure talking to you.
Once again, it's January 13th at Carnegie Hall. Bernie Williams in concert. Katia Lindor and others will be on stage with him. It will be a wonderful night of music. Thanks for joining us.